All right.
Okay, hey everyone, welcome, and this is Back to the Future, episode 32, and tonight's episode is called iPhone X-cellent, because of course the iPhone pre-launch is coming on Friday, and on the 3rd of November, which I think is the next Friday, maybe something along those lines.
It's just a week.
It's okay. Yeah, they're going to have the actual phone for sale, and I don't know. I won't be buying one, but I know lots of people will. And for people who didn't know, I for once again have Warren Sklar with me. There we go, dual screen. Whoa, what's up? Hey, Warren.
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. We had
Good.
some excitement just before we started. For whatever reason, the software that I use to actually do the Livecast decided that it was going to add a little extra delay. And by the time I realized it was too late because I'd already turned it off. So I had to set it up all over again. Yay! Because that's what I do. A couple things to talk about tonight. The main thing I think is going to be the pre-orders for the iPhone X and the iPhone X itself. Not so much what features it has and, why it's so much better than this or that. Because it's like everything else in consumer electronics, Warren. You're either going to buy one or you're not going to buy one. And, whether or not you buy one is going to be based on, what it is about product, whatever, that you think makes it worth buying. So,
Yeah.
I'm still on my handy little iPhone 6 Plus because so far with the 6S and the 7 and the 8, there hasn't been a good enough reason for me to go out and buy a new phone and spend the kind of money that I would have to buy. And why did photos just come up? Had to be something about the phone here. And it's being difficult. All right, doesn't matter. So on Friday, Apple will start accepting pre-orders for the iPhone X. Then on the 3rd of November, you can actually, if you get there early enough, God, it won't let me quit photos.
Well,
That is so annoying. It really,
let it
really
go.
is. I've got this big ass computer.
Let it go.
I can't let it go. It's the OCD.
Yeah.
Orchestra Maneuvers in the Dark. No, that was OMD.
Orchestral.
Maneuvers in it. Was that the name of the group? I was actually not a fan. It just, for whatever reason, that's what came into my head.
They're a bonus song. While you do that, we're being corrected. It's the iPhone 10, not the X. So.
Yeah.
The chat group's on fire. On fire! Saying we're saying it wrong.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
No, it's all right.
And yes, Marcus, buying mystery Oreos, it will taste like this podcast, but it has to have the orange creamy filling. And we actually have some of those upstairs. They're really quite good. So, all right,
yes.
we're gonna try to bring this back around again. Friday, you can pre-order the iPhone 10. Then on the 3rd of November, the actual phone will be in stores that you can then walk in and buy, maybe. There have been numerous reports of problems with the tech, especially Face ID, and the availability of the what is it they were telling us about how to say OLED? Is it OLED? Is it OLED? Is it Constantinople? What is? How do they want us to pronounce it?
I don't know, but I think the problem was more with the cameras. The facial cameras was the supply issue, if I read right.
Well, they don't really know. I mean, none of these people know, and that was part of the rant that I was going to have here. Now, the analysts are saying that these problems will constrain supply to about half of the expected 40 million units that Apple wanted to produce. And before we start talking about the supposed problems that the iPhone X has, it's important to note that during all this time, Apple has said nothing and never does about iPhone sales outside of either financial calls or product launches relevant to the iPhone. What we actually have here is not the company that designed the phones, the major retailers that sell the phones, or the companies that manufacture the phones talking about production or lack thereof. What we have here are analysts who are in the business of selling you stocks, buying your stocks, or selling their services as analysts to the companies that do the same. And it gets them attention to say things like Apple is doomed, Apple is going to have all kinds of problems with product release XYZ because of problems ABC, and nobody calls them on their bullshit. Nobody ever comes back 6 months later and said, well, hold on a second. You said that Apple was going to have problems because of this. And as it turns out, that wasn't true. So were you lying or were you just stupid? Did you read your tea leaves wrong? Go ahead.
So a couple things. So the first thing is Apple today, supposedly there's an article that came out yesterday from either Bloomberg or Business Insider, Bloomberg, that said that Apple was going to make the Face ID functionality not as accurate. Yeah, accurate in order to speed up production of the phone. And then Apple supposedly themselves said today that that's not the case. As far as I know, that's the only time Apple actually had intercepted any of these rumors, if that rumor is true. So everything else, yes, is rumor. Now, analysts are saying there's short supply of these and those, and with the exception of the iPhone 8, it seems like every release is sort of kind of like, yeah, you know what? If you're up at 3 a.m. or 12 a.m. or whatever and order it right away, you're pretty good. And then if you're a day or two late, then the supply chain does go. So, the analysts do say that, there's going to be short supply, and usually there is. I mean,
but that's every year. That's every year with a new iPhone release for probably the first month at least.
Right.
There are constrained supplies because nobody could fill that number of orders ahead of time unless they'd been making that phone for a year before it was actually released.
So I saw you had a Facebook discussion with somebody in all things tech, and basically,
yeah. Then he deleted the post.
Did he delete it, or I didn't see that part?
Yeah. Can you believe it?
But the question is
Carl.
Legitimate. Carl, yeah. Well, that these guys know, but that group is kind of an anti-Apple group, anyways. But
it's okay.
And Carl is too. But anyways, it comes back to whether it's Alexa's talking to me. Whether Apple artificially creates a inventory shortage to create excitement for the product and to make the phone more desirable or the product more desirable because it's harder to get. That's the question. And it's always been a question. It's been a question since 2007, I think. Samsung literally just gave away 200 free phones to an airline, people flying somewhere. They have so much that they're giving 200 away. So people can make, companies can make phones. There's ways to mass produce these things. Apple could do it, whether they're not doing it because they rather, not have inventory. Who knows? That's the question. That's the question you were asking too.
Tim Cook, his whole job when Steve Jobs was alive was basically managing the supply chain. And that was something that he did very, very well. And, you know, again, when Carl was talking about, oh, Apple's only doing this and keeping this number of phones low so that they can, you know, create this artificial demand. I heard the same crap when Nintendo only had a limited number of that original Nintendo, you know, game system that they were putting out.
They're doing the same thing.
Yeah, but it's not the same thing because the only way that that's kind of legitimate is if Nintendo made X number to build up the demand, and then once the demand was at a fever pitch, turn around and then release millions more. And that's not what happened. They basically said, yeah, okay, the ones we put out, that's all we're going to do. We're going to move on to this other classic system because they've got like 6 or 7 of them that they can put out. So, you know, it's not the same thing. You can't create an artificial demand for something that you're not planning on filling. And in Apple's case, to create an artificial demand for a product that they could sell out if they made 10 times more of them just doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't they have enough in the supply chain to fill demand if they could? It's crazy.
The question is why don't they? I mean if the phones sell out on Friday, which they will, and more people want to buy them and they have to wait till Christmas to get them, what's their reasoning for not providing enough inventory to everybody that's planning on pre-ordering this thing on Friday?
Maybe they just can't build enough of them.
Huh?
You know, I mean, we're talking about this. This is a new product. This is a different kind of iPhone than the one that Apple has made before. I mean, you could make the argument that there's not really that much difference as far as how it's built between the 6, the 6S, the 7, and the 8 series. So we're talking, 3 to 4 years of the same kind of basic design. There wasn't really a whole lot different about it. Well, then when they showed off the 10, there were many things that were different about this phone. There were many things that are exclusive as an iPhone to this phone. And anytime that you're creating something that for you as a company, and I'm not saying that all of these features that the iPhone 10 has is, innovative and never been done before. I'm not saying that. But for the most part, these are all new things for Apple. So with that, keeping that in mind, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be some issues that they're going to have in putting together a new product and a new product category like this. So the fact that there's not as many phones as there possibly could be doesn't really surprise me. And it shouldn't really surprise anybody else.
We'll find out on Friday because maybe there'll be enough for everybody. Who knows?
But before we let someone like Bloomberg off the hook, the things that people need to remember about these companies is that they're dealing in rumors and innuendos and falsehoods, both real and imagined, and out lies to get you to listen to them or read their blogs. They get away with it because so few people call them out on it, and even after the fact that they're proven wrong, because most people have moved on to some other Apple rumor or the facts that can be used to manipulate other people's opinions, manipulate the rumors, use lies to influence the markets and make a lot of money. Saying that Bloomberg sucks or Analyst sucks, it's kind of redundant. It's like saying water is wet. So whether or not Apple is having problems with Face ID and the technology that's built in to do Face ID. And that's why not as many phones are going to be made. This is something that Apple has already denied. And Bloomberg claiming that Apple is allowing less accurate components to speed up production is really based on nothing. They have nothing that they could point to. And honestly, if they were a person, they could probably, most of these people could be sued for libel for some of the things that they're saying. It's ridiculous. So
just real fast with the inventory rumors. With the inventory rumors, Apple probably doesn't get involved with worrying about that or getting involved, mainly because if they're saying that there's going to be a shortage, the only thing Apple could do is improve that. I mean, when it actually happens. So it's either they're going to be right and it's fine because people expect it, or Apple's going to have more than enough phones for everybody in which everybody wins and gets happy. So it's not. Yeah. That's why when Bloomberg said that Apple is going to cut corners on the Face ID, that's something that they need to address because that's
they did.
Security. Yeah. Because that's different. That's a security issue. That's laziness on Apple. If that's an accusation. If it had been true. If it's been true, that's an accusation. We're saying, there may not be enough phones, or it's going to be a shortage. Apple's like, whatever. If that's true, fine. If not, then that's better. So.
All right. Well, before we take a break, this is my 100% accurate forecast concerning the iPhone 10. Pre-orders will be on Friday, guaranteed. No one knows how many pre-orders there will be, guaranteed. The device itself will be in stores on November 3rd with no known amount of phones in each store that are going to be available, guaranteed. So basically like every other iPhone launch. Yeah.
And with the just a couple more tidbits on that. Supposedly the space gray 256 gigabyte phone is the most popular, according to polls.
How can it be?
It's the most popular choice according to polls that people have made.
Okay.
But historically that's been true. Historically, black or space gray in the biggest capacity has been the most popular choice. The Apple app on the phone is supposedly the most reliable way to get one. You can right now go into the Apple Store app on your phone and favorite the one that you want, and it ends up under your account as a favorite. So in theory, when the orders go live, you could go back in on the favorite and add it to the bag when it's live. And that's what they're telling people to do. They also want to make sure to check that your Apple Pay is working if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm going to be sleeping on the couch.
So you're going to get a 10?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully. Didn't you get an 8, or did you hold off on the 8?
I held off. I have a 7 Plus that's being sold. So I will be getting the 10. I'll be on the couch with 2 laptops, an iPad, and an iPhone, kind of like spread out like that. And
which fingers? Just hit them all at once. Hopefully you won't get 4 in the mail.
You know what? If it happens, it happens.
You could probably sell them even if you did.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. But if I could get one, I'll be happy. Orders start at 12:01 a.m. from Pacific time. So on the East Coast, that's 3 o'clock a.m. for me.
Yeah, I won't be doing that.
No,
I will not.
I never did this. Once I did, was it the first watch? I think the first watch, I didn't plan it, but I rolled over by accident, and I'm like, ooh, I'm awake. I'm ordering a watch. So I kind of got up with enough time to order it, but so yeah, I'll be ordering a 10.
Okay. Before we go, do you want to address some of the comments?
A lot of it's just how to pronounce OLED. OLED is Marcus's official pronunciation of that. Basically, other than that, yeah, we're talking about the inventory. People kind of, Cletus says inventory is money on the shelf when we're talking about iPhones. Maybe that's why they don't produce more than they have ordered, which makes a lot of sense. We're large.
Well, Frank is getting I guess Frank went to an 8+, so he's happy. And Marcus is saying he's going to buy just one.
Suds car makes a good point that says maybe call your bank in the middle before the day just to say don't put a stop to my account if I buy a $1,200. If I'm buying something for $1,200 from Apple 3:00 in the morning, that does look a little strange and
a little suspicious.
Not a terrible. Funny story on that is when I lived in London, constantly, at least 3 times, I got. Every time my credit card was stolen, it was always an Apple. Somebody was trying to buy something at an Apple store in London.
Well, probably like iTunes cards or something easy to get rid of.
It just seems like that's where that's very common for scamming.
Let's see. Frank Pentry says the 9 was given to aliens.
Yeah. Josephine O'Brien is getting hers on Friday. And
Marcus says that he's a 20-year electronic technician and LED is an acronym like FBI. You don't pronounce the FBI as FIBD or Fibby, do you? I do. I actually do. Yeah, except for Led Zeppelin.
Fibby.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I think that's yeah, so good luck. If we don't talk to people about that, good luck getting. I'm thinking about leaving milk and cookies out on Thursday night.
For Santa.
For Santa, yeah.
You'll be fulfilling your own gifts, so you'll get to eat the milk and cookies. So depending on how long the milk has been out, you may not want to drink it. Just helpful hint. All right, everybody. We're going to be back in just a minute with some other crazy crap. Not really sure what we're going to talk about. So stand by, and we'll be right back.
Everybody, please stand by to stand by. And, we'll be right back.
And welcome, everyone, back to the mymac.com podcast.
All right, so let's carry on. But
I'm still laughing about something that happened just before we started recording, and we're going to talk about that right now.
I don't know if you heard, Guy, but Sal Seguin. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard that. He's leaving Apple. It's a tragedy for everybody.
Oh dear, this is not going well, is it? We are so childish.
We are.
Really are.
It's the G-Men on the mymac.com podcast. Okay, hey everybody. Whoops, forgot to hit the button to make our video live. Yeah, I've really got to figure out a way so that when I'm doing an ad or a commercial, that you and I can still talk, or whoever it is that I may have on a particular week that we can still talk. Because the problem is I hit the button to mute the microphones so that OBS can't hear us, and it's just going to be the ad going in, and then there's like no way for me to actually talk to Warren while that's going on. He probably just thinks he needs the break. Anyway.
No, it's good. I was taking, like, if I'm taking a piss, you wouldn't hear it. So.
Well, I can see you. So, don't do that, because this is, OBS is recording. So please don't do that.
I could do this. I could put sorry.
Okay. Yeah. See, that would be fun. That would be fun.
Okay. It looks like some people thought we were done for the night, so we lost a couple people, but I told them to come back.
No.
So whatever.
Yeah. We're good.
They'll come back.
Before we talk about anything else, something I brought up before has been my mobile podcasting setup, and something kind of funny happened with that. I finally got like the last major pieces that I needed, which were, I don't know if you can, how well you can see this. This is basically the kinds of microphones that I have. This is a Behringer XM8500. It's like a $20 microphone, dynamic mic. And you can see that it's in this like little suspension stand. So the microphone itself is actually isolated from the stand. So anybody hitting the stand, it wouldn't necessarily travel through because these rubber bands are keeping it from touching. The problem was I got 4 of these like stands, and of course it was a Chinese company. And when it came in, a lot of the rubber bands that you can see on both sides here were all broken. And they did include some, but not that many. And this is kind of what they look like. These are kind of like the little rubber bands that it comes with, but they break. And I really didn't have much in the way of spares. So I went to Staples and got some rubber bands. So here's what I'm going to use. They're, number 16 rubber bands. And I actually have a couple of them on the back end of this one. You can kind of see them there. But they're a little bit bigger than the ones I needed, so I have to kind of double them up and then move them around. But this particular microphone, now I've got 3 different types of microphones in this gear, because I've got 4 microphones. I've got this XM8500, which is about $20. I've got a microphone from Electro Voice, the EV-ND767A, something like that. It's like a $200 microphone that I got at a pawn shop for like $50. And then 2 Sennheiser E835As, which eventually is going to replace this one. One of those is going to replace this one. But those are like $100. So the Electro Voice mic is $200. The Sennheisers are $100. And these Behringer mics are about $20. Now you can hear the way I sound right now. This is coming off of the Pyle PR40 broadcast mic that I use. And this is a really, really nice mic. It's also like $350. This is not a cheap microphone. And when I found this mic, I was really, really surprised at how good it sounded in comparison. Now, is it as good? No. But it really sounds not. I'm actually going to switch here. Hold on just a second. Okay. Can you still hear me? This is coming off of the Behringer mic. And it
cuts in and out.
It's what?
Cutting in and out.
Okay, I was probably not close enough. But this does not sound bad. And especially considering that this is a $20 microphone. This isn't a $350 microphone. It's a $20 microphone.
$16 Amazon right here.
Yeah. So,
see?
I'm going to switch
$16.
back.
Yeah, they're all. So Marcus wants to know if you could use O-rings at the hardware store instead of rubber bands, I guess. And Frank wants to know if you had to pre-order the rubber bands.
No, I didn't have to pre-order the rubber bands. I had to find them, though. And I actually first went to, there's a store called Michael's. I don't know if they have them in your area.
Yeah,
they sell like art supplies and stuff like that.
Yep, we have them.
Okay. Yeah. They didn't have it. So that's when I ended up going to Staples and seeing what they had. And sure enough, they had something that would work. And this was like, I don't know, $6-7. And there's enough, I mean, Jesus, there's enough rubber bands here to last me for probably 200 or 300 microphones. So,
and
I think this will be enough.
If you have extra, you can shoot the cat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, for the most part, the damn it, hold on, losing my headphone.
So while you did, I got my lights all sorted. I got the whole first floor of my house set up on Amazon Alexa to turn off and turn on the lights.
Really, let's see it. Go ahead.
Let's see. I forget what hold on. I gave it a
specific command.
A command
or a name.
Yeah, hold on. This is fun. Wait. You got to remember. All right. So, Alexa, turn on movie night.
Okay.
Ooh. So it turns out everything there. And then I could do, Alexa, turn on lights off.
A few things share that name. Which one did you want?
Lights off.
Lights off doesn't support that.
Alexa, turn on lights off.
A few things share that name.
Alexa, turn on lights off.
I didn't find turn on lights.
No, not yet. Alexa, turn on bright light.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, yeah, it's getting there, but it's fun. It's fun stuff. People want to wait for the HomePod, and I think it's going to be a great product. Home automation is definitely it's a fun thing to do.
Now,
if you have,
I haven't really thought about home automation in that way. I remember when this was 1993, 94, my parents were leaving their house in Fort Myers, and I drove down there and I installed an X-10 alarm system because they had a crazy hoarder neighbor that would take anything that wasn't tied down.
Mm-hmm.
But that was 24 years ago, 25 years ago. The old X10 standard. I mean, all the stuff now with the built-in if this then that technology that you can basically have building blocks that will do pretty much whatever you want, as long as it's for the most part an on or off kind of scenario. There's I don't know how much there is that would support something that would have basic, something a little more than either off or on, a little more, built-in intelligence.
It all does. With Siri and HomeKit and Alexa and Google Home, you could say,
only by reputation.
She's talking to you could say, turn the temperature to a certain amount of degrees. You could have the lights go to 20%, 50%. You could do...
Well, that's if the lights support that. And you have to have the lights in a kind of outlet that would have a built-in dimmer switch, and the lights, of course, themselves would have to support that.
Yeah, you got to change it all out.
Yeah, because a lot of lights are hey, I'm either on or I'm off.
Yeah. But so all these things have skills, and the skills you could tell it what to do, and the skill, and it goes from there. And HomeKit's the same way. You go in the HomeKit app. You could go into HomeKit app and tell it, what to do in the HomeKit app. But it's all fun. It's all good.
Yeah, I need to look into that a little bit more. Getting back to some of the comments, Marcus says that Bob Pyle is the best, such an amazing... I've never met him, but I am a huge fan of his microphones. I know that they make one that's kind of similar in shape to this. I think it's the PR22. I can't remember off the top of my head. but it's an expensive microphone. You know, the only reason why I had that EV 767A was because I found it in a pawn shop. I never would have bought a $200 traveling dynamic microphone. You know, I just can't afford to do that, especially since I needed 4 of them. So, you know, that's why the Sennheiser 835 was a good compromise between quality and price. And that the Behringer, what is that background noise?
Is
that something coming from you?
Yeah, it's me. Sorry.
Okay. it's like, oh, sad piano.
it's a Windows machine, so yeah.
Okay, I thought maybe it was like the Incredible Hulk or something. You know, dun, 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 for people that remember that show.
Wah, wah, wah.
So he also says that the Behringer sounded fine to him, no cutting out, and that rubber bands do dry out and become trash. He knows from delivering newspaper. Yeah, I do too. For 3 years, I guess, I used to deliver newspapers down in Fort Lauderdale.
So did I. That was horrible. And Mike.
How many papers did you have a day?
Oh man, Sundays were the killer. Remember Sunday? Oh my God, I was about 50. I used to after 50, I was done.
That's it.
I was a kid on a bike.
Yeah, no, me too. I had. This was the Fort Lauderdale News. That was like the afternoon paper, and then the Sun Sentinel was the morning paper down in Fort Lauderdale. Mm-hmm. I had 250 papers for afternoons, and then on weekends that would go up to about 350.
Yeah, that's too much.
And this is kind of funny and completely off topic. In I think it was 1973 or 1974, there was this thing called, and it had to do with Vietnam and Nixon and all the rest of that. It's called the Pentagon Papers, and it was this huge amount of information that was released related to the Vietnam War. I would have to look it up. I mean, I didn't realize we were going to talk about this. And the Fort Lauderdale News Sunday paper went from 250 pages, like a typical weekend kind of paper, where I had the big basket in front of my bike, and I could fit like about 50, 60 papers. It went to over 900 pages for the Sunday, and I could only fit like about 15 papers in my basket. So I was, I got started at 3:30 in the morning. I was still delivering papers at 10 o'clock in the morning because I'd have to go back, load the basket again, and go back out and throw these behemoths out. Got all kinds of complaints because people wanted their paper at 6 in the morning, and I was still lugging them.
Yeah. No, I used to have nightmares. After I stopped delivering the paper, I used to have nightmares about delivering the paper and collecting. You remember collecting?
I hated collecting.
You had to collect with the little tear sheets, and
well, we had these like kind of thick cardboard things for each subscriber, and then a punch that we would use for each month that they would pay.
We had a tear off kind of thing, the same kind of thing.
Awful.
It was hard. Except there was once where my friend and I raided a liquor cabinet of either my parents or his parents, and at like 8 o'clock at night we were hungry.
So after going through his parents' liquor cabinet,
we were walking around the neighborhood, so we're like, we need money. Let's go collecting. So we started doing our paper route collection at 8 o'clock at night drunk. And somebody called my mother.
How'd that work out?
Yeah, my mother came and got me.
I think the weirdest thing that ever happened to me when I was collecting, I had a series of apartments. And there were some kind of weird people that lived in some of these apartments, and knocked on one door. It was like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. And this young woman, compared to me now, she was probably like in her late 20s, opened the door stark naked. And I was like a 12, 13-year-old kid. And I was like, and she was like, can you come back later? I don't have the money right now. I was like, she just closed the door. It's like, okay, well, he's sufficiently flabbergasted, so he's not going to be able to come back anytime soon.
And there was no porn music. And,
no. Nothing was going to happen. You know, she was basically using it as a way to distract me so that I would just go away and, you know, not be asking her for money. And it worked.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
I would have remembered something like that. That never happened to me, unfortunately.
And we are talking about Fort Lauderdale. So, you know, that can be kind of a weird place all on its own.
Florida is a different country.
It very, very much is.
Yes. Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about tonight?
Probably not.
Okay.
I'm good. Anybody out there?
Well, we still have 4 people on.
Yeah, people were talking about their paper route. Marcus had a 400.
He had me beat.
People on there, and Frank had 89 people. Yeah, that definitely brings back horrible memories.
Yeah.
But
when I used to make extra money by folding for other people, there was a guy who delivered in a Volkswagen Bug who had like 500 papers. So before he would come in, I would like fold all of his into the bags before I would get started on my own, and that brought me a little extra cash. Anyway, I don't even know how did we get on this.
Rubber bands.
Rubber bands. Well, of course. Rubber bands would lead to this. All right.
It was rubber bands.
Warren, how could people get a hold of you?
They can message me on Facebook or just find me in Back to the Future.
Okay.
And you?
Oh, well, yeah. I can be found Guy at Mac to the Future. Sorry, mttfgo.com. I am Mac Parrot on the Twitters. And we have a Skype number that you can call, leave a message that we will play on the show, 703-436-9501. You can catch up on old shows over on YouTube. If you search for my name, Guy Searle, you'll find them there. You can also, you know, I have to verify this. You can also find the archives by going to mttfgo.com. I think I have up to episode 28 there. I still have to put 29, 30, and 31. I haven't gotten around to it yet because I'm lazy. But all of that stuff is, you know, all the old shows are there if you want to watch them. And if there's a particular topic that you guys want us to talk about, or if you want me to talk with somebody else about, or however you want it to work out, let us know over on the Facebook Mac to the Future page. And I think that's going to about do it. So, Warren, thanks for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And everybody, may the odds be in your favor Thursday, Friday morning. And I'm sure we'll be reading lots and lots of posts on Friday morning to if things go right, I won't be waking up till about 11, so I'll talk to you then. But good luck, everybody, with that.
Okay, everybody. Good night. We'll see you next week.
See you.
Okay. So credits have rolled.
All right. We still live?
Yeah, I have us back on again. Suckers.
Suckers.
Wait, what happened?
Everybody's saying good night. Good luck all night.
Yeah, bye. Bye. Oh, shit.